So what do you do in fantasy football if you effed up your draft, or maybe you're starting 0-4, 0-5 in fantasy football and you just keep losing? Okay, so I have 5 easy steps for you if you messed up your draft, or maybe you're just having a really bad start in fantasy football. All right, so step 1 is to just take a breath, give yourself a beat. Every year, people start with horrible records in fantasy football. Every year, people mess up their drafts. Maybe you're in a position where you messed up a big chunk of your draft, you overdrafted players. Maybe you have players that just aren't performing. Maybe you have people on your team that have gotten injured. Maybe you're in a situation where you thought you drafted really well, but it's not turning into the wins that you're wanting to get in fantasy football. So again, take a breath, just relax, it's going to be okay, and follow the next 4 steps, and you have a chance at winning your fantasy football championship in 2025. Okay, so step number 2 is going to be evaluate your team. If you're in a position where you have nobody on your team who's any good, then you can skip to step 3, but more than likely you have 1 or 2, maybe even 3 if you're lucky, shining pieces on your team. It's now time to evaluate if they are worth trading away. More than likely they are, unless you have some crazy QB like Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, unless you have a wide receiver who's just popping off, or maybe you have a running back who's doing 20, 25 points a week. You have a top 5 guy at a position, maybe you don't want to trade them away, but maybe you have 1 or 2 other pieces that are shining but aren't like, holy crap, have to hold on to no matter what pieces. If that's the situation that you find yourself in, it's time to start looking to trade them away. A lot of other times, league managers out there will sit and think like, oh, there's no chance of them making the playoffs anyways, I'll make a trade with them. And a lot of times that means you'll be in a situation where they're willing to make better, more fair trades than if you were someone that they felt like they were competing with to win this season. So what does that mean for you? It means that you need to identify other league managers who have holes that you can fix with a wide receiver or with a running back or a tight end on your team. You also need to be looking for package deals where you're trading away one of those shining pieces for 2 good people on their team. So maybe you have a wide receiver, a running back, or a tight end that's doing pretty well in fantasy football. If you can trade that player away for 2 players at maybe 1 at that position and 1 at another position, or maybe even 2 at that same position that are good, that are performing decently well to good in fantasy football, now you're elevating your total score per week because you're having 2 guys that are performing at a higher level than some of your average or significantly below average players on your team. What this does is add depth and more total fantasy points per week to your bottom line and sets you up better. The other big part of when you're making trades that you need to keep in mind as well is we need to be looking at the future weeks and what matchups they have coming down the pipe. When you're making these trades, it doesn't make sense to trade for a good running back. The next 6 weeks is going up against a hellacious assortment of defenses who stop the run at a high level. Same thing for the wide receivers. If they have unfavorable matchups where they're going up against good secondaries, you do not want to make those trades either. And if you're uncertain, is their future matchups more favorable or unfavorable? Each week I will have teams that are going up against other teams that I think have a better chance for their running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and QBs to have a higher performance because they're going up against weaker run defenses or pass defenses or just a weaker overall defense unit as well. So again, if you don't want to take the time to do your research, look into the stats, look into the matchups, you can find my videos each week to help you figure out which trades have a longer runway of a chance of having favorable matchups versus unfavorable matchups. Step number 3 is going to be looking into the waiver wire. The biggest thing about this though is you need to stop following other people on YouTube. I know it sounds negative, but I'm not talking about don't watch any of their stuff, but I'm saying when it comes to their waiver wire coverage, stop putting so much time and focus into it because those people are reacting versus being preemptive. And by preemptive, I mean finding people who already look like they have some talent, have some situations that maybe if they slightly change, they can break out that season and be a superstar or at least a good performer on your team. Most of those times, those YouTube videos are being made after they've already had their breakout week, and now you're going to have to blow your waiver wire spot, blow your fab budget on a guy you don't even know how good they're going to be going into the following week. What would be smarter for you is I will have content throughout the season about people that I am watching on tape because I'll be watching every game anywhere from 2 to 3 times and breaking down what I'm seeing and who I like. And just like last season with Juwan Jennings, watching him on tape, I liked what I saw. But I knew that he needed to be in a position where he had a chance to get the targets that he needed to get to be fantasy viable. It is the reason that I picked him up on my team from doing my analysis and put him in at the right moment when Ayuk was out, Deebo Samuel wasn't performing, and George Kittle was, I believe, out that week as well. He had his 40-point performance in a PPR format. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to get you a 40-point guy that you're going to have that's going to be like, that crazy. But if you can get a guy that you are picking up before everybody else, they go to the waiver wire after he has a 20-point week or a 25-point week and he's already on your team, sucks for them. So again, if you don't have the time or you just don't care enough to do that, I will have content to have you start picking people up off the waiver wire before they blow up in fantasy football. This will dramatically bolster your roster to set you up for step number 4. So for step number 4, it also revolves around the waiver wire. You need to start looking for players out there that are not attached to their handcuff. So what do I mean by that? If somebody has James Conner but doesn't have Trey Benson, that is his handcuff. That is somebody that you could potentially pick up before James Conner has an injury that may sideline him for 3, 4, 5 weeks, maybe even the entire season. The same thing goes for wide receivers. Maybe you're watching the Texans and you're like, you know what? Somebody in my league has Nico, someone has Christian Kirk, but no one has Jaden Higgins. That might be a little bit of a stretch for where he's going, but you kind of get what I'm saying. If there's an injury that happens to Christian Kirk or Nico Collins and they miss significant weeks or they miss a big chunk of the season, then you have a player who's already on your bench who you're not starting yet, but when the time comes, they can be put in. So you're looking again for wide receiver 2s, maybe high talent wide receiver 3s to put on your bench to again add depth. And if an injury happens, people are going to be looking for these players, but they'll already be on your team. At step number 5, you need to get comfortable with the idea of streaming multiple positions. Maybe we have the star running back or star wide receiver that we're not trading away that we're going to keep. That means at the QB position, if our star player is not the QB, we need to start looking for matchups that are favorable each and every week. Same thing for our defenses. If you're playing in a league where you have defenses or a kicker position, you can look for more favorable matchups to stream week over week over week. It's not hard to get 15 to 20 more points each week than what you would have had by streaming a QB position, a defense, and a kicker. If you don't have kicker and defense, obviously it's just the QB, so maybe it's more like 5 or 10 points. But if you have all three, 15 to 20 points is very, very realistic. And 15 to 20 points could be the difference between you losing your week and winning your week. It's the same thing with picking up the handcuffs, same thing with streaming different players and the defenses and the kicker, is we're not looking to win our championship right now. What we are looking to do is start winning some games so we can start accumulating more wins than we have losses. Because realistically, if we are streaming, if we are picking up players who are handcuffs, maybe their starter's only out for 2 or 3 weeks, we can plug and play these pieces as the season goes. Obviously, we need to try and build the best roster we can going into the playoffs, but ultimately what we're trying to do is get a seat in the dance, get a seat in the playoffs, because if we can get enough wins to get into the playoffs, you have a shot at winning your fantasy football championship. So no matter what you do, don't give up. Follow these steps 1 through 5. Again, the first one being take a breath, but after that, start focusing on these areas. Follow the other content that I'll have throughout the season to help you focus on finding the right players, finding the right matchups, especially as the season goes along, to help you set up to win in fantasy football in 2025. Hopefully the videos I'll make in the future will help you get just a little bit closer and potentially win your fantasy football championship in 2025. Hopefully I'll see you guys again. Hopefully you guys will see me again real soon. Until then, y'all have a blessed day. Bye.